All right, let's get right into it. Every single day, scientists and doctors are creating just a staggering amount of biomedical images. We're talking CT scans, pathology slides, you name it. And looking through these images is absolutely critical for things like finding new cures and diagnosing diseases. But here's the catch. The sheer volume of all this data is just overwhelming our ability to make sense of it all.
I mean, really think about that for a second. How on earth do you find that one crucial piece of the puzzle, a single cancer cell, maybe a tiny lesion, when it's hidden inside an image with millions of other things? It's not just a needle in a haystack. It's a microscopic needle in a haystack the size of a mountain. And for researchers, this has been a huge challenge for decades.
You know, the solution we've been using has been, honestly, surprisingly low-tech. For years, the only way to do this was to have experts sit down and manually draw little rectangular boxes around every single thing they were interested in, all just to tell a computer, hey, look at this. As you can probably guess, it's slow, it's tedious, and a lot of the time, it's just not that accurate.
So, let's officially introduce the villain of our story today, the bounding box. This simple little rectangle has become a massive bottleneck, something that's really slowing down research and holding back major breakthroughs. It's time we really dig into why this old way of doing things just isn't cutting it anymore.
The problems are pretty clear when you lay them out. First off, it takes forever. You need an expert to sit there and draw every single box. Second, and this is a huge one, biology is messy, right? Tumors and cells, they don't grow in nice, neat little rectangles, so a box is a really clumsy tool for trying to capture their true irregular shapes. And finally, you just can't scale it. There's no way you can draw a box around every single one of the 400 cells in a tissue sample, let alone do that for millions of samples.
But what if we could just move beyond the box entirely? What if, instead of having to manually show a computer where to look, we could just tell it what to look for? Well, this is where a totally revolutionary new approach comes into play, a much, much smarter way for computers to see.
Okay, so this new idea is called image parsing. Think of it as a framework that does three things all at the same time. It handles segmentation, that's figuring out the exact pixel-by-pixel boundary of an object. It does detection, finding where the object is. And it does recognition, identifying what that object actually is. By doing all three of these things together, it gets a much, much deeper understanding of the image.
And that brings us to the hero of our story today, a new model called BiomedParse. It just throws the whole idea of bounding boxes right out the window. Instead of drawing, a researcher can just type in a simple text prompt, something like, find all the inflammatory cells, and boom, the model does all the heavy lifting.
So how in the world did they build something this powerful? Well, the secret sauce here is just brilliant. The researchers grabbed 45 different public data sets. The problem was, all the descriptions for the objects were, they were a mess. They were inconsistent. So they used GPT-4 to act like a universal translator, cleaning up all that messy text and organizing it into one single unified language. The result? A massive, super high-quality data set of almost 7 million examples to train their model on. Just incredible.
This really shows you what a fundamental shift this is. I mean, we're going from something that's manual and painfully slow and bad with complex shapes to something that's simple, scalable, and actually masters those shapes. We're moving from a system that needs a user's expertise to place a box to one that just gets the meaning behind the words. It's a total game changer.
Okay, so we know how it was built, but how well does it actually work? Let's get into the results and talk about the superpowers that make BiomedParse so special. The proof, as they say, is in the pudding, or in this case, the data. This chart shows its accuracy. It's a metric called a DICE score across a bunch of different imaging types. And yeah, BiomedParse is consistently at the top. But here's the real kicker. It even beats other top models like MedSAM when those models are given an oracle box. That's basically a perfect computer-drawn box, like a cheat sheet. Even with a cheat sheet, they still can't beat BiomedParse. Wow.
430. Just let that number sit there for a second. What could that possibly be?
That right there is the difference in scale. In one test, a single text prompt given to BiomedParse accomplished the same thing that would have required a researcher to sit down and manually draw 430 separate bounding boxes. That is a mind-blowing leap in efficiency.
But here's its real superpower, the thing that makes it so incredible. Because it's not trapped inside a rectangle, BioParse is amazing at identifying the messy, complex, irregular shapes that are just the reality of biology.
And we can actually put a number on that advantage. 39.6%.
That's how much better it is. When you look at those really tricky, non-rectangular objects, BiomedParse is almost 40% more accurate than its closest competitor. We're not talking about a small improvement here. This is a massive jump in what's possible.
But you know, a truly intelligent system doesn't just know what to find, it also has to know what not to find. So the researchers put BiomedParse through another really important test, its robustness.
So can you trick it, right? What happens if you give it a totally ridiculous prompt? Does it just make something up, or is it smart enough to know that the request is nonsense?
Well, the researchers tried exactly that. They asked it to find brain tissue in a chest X-ray. Now, a dumber model might try to find some random pattern that kind of sort of looks like brain tissue, but not BiomedParse. It correctly recognized that the request made no sense and just said, request invalid. It knows what doesn't belong.
And this wasn't a fluke. Look at this table. It shows you how well it performs on this task. A perfect score here is 1.0. BiomedParse gets a 0.99. I mean, that's basically perfect. Now compare that to another top model, Grounding Dino, which only gets a 0.61. This ability to say no to bad prompts is so important for it to be reliable in the real world.
And then there's this final superpower. It can go into what the researchers call recognition mode. Without any prompt at all, it can just scan an entire image and automatically find, label, and outline every single thing it recognizes. It's like everything, everywhere, all at once.
So let's pull back for a second. We've seen the tech, we've seen the incredible results, but what does all of this actually mean for the future of medicine, for doctors, for patients, for all of us?
This comparison with a real-world pathologist's work says it all. A human pathologist who is under incredible time pressure gives this essential, big-picture analysis, identifying a general tumor region. BiomedParse can come in and act like a superpowered assistant, precisely identifying and outlining every single cell in that area with pixel-perfect accuracy and giving really specific labels. The potential to help doctors and provide a deeper layer of data is just immense.
And that leaves us with this final, really powerful question. For decades, we've been looking at these images, but our tools have been pretty limited. Now, with models like BiomedParse, we are teaching our computers to see with a biologist's understanding, but at a scale and precision no human could ever hope to match. What discoveries are just waiting around the corner for us now that we can finally see what's truly there?